Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of our community-led courses. I normally stick within the Jira world and I stick to my 4 courses, but I had an amazing opportunity to be joined here with my lovely wife, and we're going to be doing a how to build your first Rovo agent with Studio. And so this is part of Atlassian's new endeavors into artificial intelligence. You may or may not have heard of Rovo. We're going to be covering all the details in this course. Now, before we get too far, a couple of friendly reminders. This session is being recorded and will be available on this YouTube channel after. We don't really do slides, so make sure you go back to YouTube and rewatch the video in case anything goes over your head, or if you need to, rewatch something. Make sure you hit that subscribe button though, because as I mentioned just a few moments ago, this is one of many, 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 many courses that I do every month, and so you want to make sure you subscribe and check out all the other videos. Now, as we're waiting for folks to trickle in, make sure you say hello. Use the chat here on the side if you're new here. I know this is usually I do them at like 6, 7, 8 in the morning, and so this is the first time doing them a little later in the day. So use that chat there to say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And also, if you're new to Rovo, if you've used Rovo before, also let us know. But let's just get a chat going here. We got Liz already tuning in from LA. She is one of our regulars. So Liz, thank you for still being with us during the day. Yeah, also a couple of opportunities here. Check out the chat leaderboard. So as you're interacting in the chat, you're gonna get a little icon that says who's the top 3 in the chat. So if you want to get that little special badge, make sure you utilize that chat there on the side. I also have membership capabilities available for you. So if you enjoy this content and you want to become a member, we have a lot of cool things because I post a daily video on this channel. So if you want to get early access or even member only videos, make sure you check them out. So with that said, a little bit about me and Lena. I don't have one about you, so I'll probably just do your introduction as well. But my name's Alex. This is my wife, Lena. We are co-founders of ATech, and we just help people with their Jira problems. We run this YouTube channel here where we do a lot of videos on the Atlassian ecosystem. I have the ACP 520, 120, and 620, and hopefully within the next 6 months, I'll have the 420 as well. Both Lena and I have degrees in engineering. We run this channel. We also run the Jira Life together. And I'm going to drop a link tree here. So if you are interested in learning more about the services and offerings that I have, you can check them out in the, oops, totally went the wrong way there. You can check them out on the chat there on the side. And so my wife, Lena, if you want to do a quick 30 seconds, 2-second intro, we'll go from there. Or not. I'll just introduce her. She's a champion.
All right. I don't know. I'm Lina. I'm an engineer. I love to code, and one of my biggest passions is AI. So naturally, I was gonna jump into figuring out how to use this robot thing.
Yeah. And she just became a community champion as well. So welcome, Lena. And we are going to be putting together not one, but 2 events in Southern California very, very soon. So we have one at the end of August and one at the end of October. So make sure you connect with us on LinkedIn. I dropped in that link tree there. So you can find my LinkedIn profile and you'll be up to speed with all the events happening there. Okay, so what are we going to be learning today? So we actually have a very action-packed agenda. We have a lot to cover. And so I'm going to start off with some basics. I always like level setting. I always like giving everybody a good infrastructure and a good platform to build off of. And so we're going to cover just some basics of what is Atlassian intelligence, because you can't spell Atlassian without A and I. We're going to talk about Rovo, and then we're going to get into the more newer Rovo introductions, which is Rovo Chat, Rovo Search, and Studio. Then we're going to roll up our sleeves, our figurative sleeves here, and we're going to go into how to use Studio. We're going to build our first agent, and then we're going to walk you through what I feel is a typical scenario of where you can leverage the power of Rovo and the power of Jira, put them together to do something valuable, maybe as a project manager, maybe as a scrum master. And so hopefully this will inspire some ideas. And so the 3 things that we're going to cover here is going to be how to find bugs, because bugs are a kryptonite's, a project manager's kryptonite. And so we'll talk about how to find bugs that are critical and should be fixed immediately. We'll show you how to use, again, Rovo for work item grooming and populating your acceptance criteria. And then finally, we're going to venture off into something slightly harder, and we're going to combine an automation rule with Rovo to show you how these two things come together. Now, before we get too far, the only last disclosure that I'll do before we get off the slides here is that Rovo is in not technically beta because it's in general availability, but trust me when I tell you, Rovo is still kind of figuring life out a little bit. So some things are going to work. We've tried to prepare, we try to demonstrate, we've tried to practice as much as we could, but as I said, Rovo is an ever evolving tool here that is just continuously changing in the world of Atlassian. Atlassian is continuously pushing updates, and in fact, just a few hours ago, Mike Cannon-Brookes, CEO of Atlassian, was doing a presentation where he was talking about how every week Rovo continues to change and get better and improve. So keep that in mind that we won't we won't have the perfect sprint, but you should see how well that video is doing, Rodney. Okay, so let's start off with a couple of basics. So what exactly is Atlassian Intelligence? So we are in a very interesting time right now in the world of AI, right? Because you can't go very far. You really can't even leave your house without hearing about AI because every company around the world is getting into AI. And so Atlassian Intelligence came out a few years ago. It was first introduced in 2023 at Team in Vegas. And it basically allows you to do a couple of very neat, very subtle, just auxiliary work that it helps you out with, right? So it does things like define keywords for you. It gives you summaries. It helps you brainstorm. It helps you write your documentation and stuff like that. And there's different flavors of this, right? So Atlassian Intelligence, there's the version that works inside of Jira. So there's a lot of Jira capabilities. There's a version inside of Confluence that does all the Confluence things. And they're kind of independent for right now, right? The Atlassian Intelligence for Jira stays in Jira, and Atlassian Intelligence and Confluence stays in Confluence. Now, if you fast forward about a year at Team 24, also in Vegas, Atlassian came onto the stage and introduced something revolutionary. They introduced something called Rovo. And Rovo basically takes and builds upon that foundation of Atlassian Intelligence and just amplifies it, right? Makes it so much better. So Rovo is not restricted to just one tool, but rather it goes out and it can basically do everything Atlassian Intelligence can do and then so much more, right? And so you're going to start to see this in Atlassian's material where we're going to have a little bit of an identity crisis, but Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo are very slowly but surely converging because their capabilities are sometimes very similar, right? Rovo kind of has this bigger Venn diagram where Atlassian Intelligence has a very niched area, but Rovo does what Atlassian Intelligence does, but not necessarily the other way. So keep an eye out for this space. Atlassian might be announcing some interesting things. I'm not privy to a whole lot, but that's essentially, if I had to summarize it for you, that's kind of what it is. So Rovo, though, however, Rovo's for everyone. It's included with all paid plans, at least it will be. Atlassian has started rolling it out to enterprise and premium customers, but at Team 25 in Anaheim this year, Atlassian made Rovo basically free for everyone. Well, I don't want to say free. They made it included for everybody on a paid plan. Okay. Now there are some usage limits that you should be aware of, but it's essentially included. So as long as you're on the paid version, specifically premium or enterprise versions of the Jira, Confluence, JSM, then you should have some access, at least to some degree, to Rovo. Now, Atlassian also are, hold up, we got a question. Are hands tasty? It does beg the question. We can ask Rovo, so we'll get there. So other things that you should be aware of is that during Team 25 in Anaheim this year, Atlassian introduced 3 major revolutions to Rovo. So instead of just the basics, right, this interoperable tool that is Rovo, we have Rovo Chat, we have Rovo Search, and we have Rovo Agents. Now, in order to build the agents, in order for these agents to be created, Atlassian introduced another product or another app, as they call them, called Studio. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into Studio because Studio is where we're going to go and build the agents, right? And so the focus for this class, specifically this material, is not on the chat, it's not on the search, although you are going to see fragments of that throughout the training. But really, we're going to be focusing on the agents and on the Studio, because that's kind of the cooler part that requires a little bit more hands holding and hands-on activities. So with that said, if you have any questions about anything that we just covered, please feel free to just drop those questions in the chat here. Otherwise, what we're going to do here is we're going to go into Jira and we are going to begin our endeavor into Studio. So leave me a +1 in the chat if you're excited, if you're ready to go build our very first Rovo agent. And then I'll pause here. Lena, if you want to add anything, that would be a great time to add while I take a sip of water.
I want to add that there's multiple ways for you to reach that specific studio or for you to create your robo agents, right? So maybe we can look at them and show them a little bit later on how to get to all of them after we show them how to build the first robo agent.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to show you the first way that I usually get to it. All right. And this is usually when I do my Jira 101 trainings, this is usually how I teach people how to navigate around the world of Atlassian. So I think it feels okay that we're going to go down this route. So up on the top left corner of your Jira, and let me zoom in a little bit in case you're watching on a smaller screen. But up here on the top left corner, we have this little grid. It used to be more of a grid. Now it's just like 4 squares. But when you click on this, you're going to be able to see all your applications that you have that you're subscribed to from either your company or your personal Atlassian tools. Now, as we make our way down, you're going to see things like Jira, Confluence, Loom, some of the newer products like Talent and Focus that, again, Mike Cannon-Brooks was talking about today. We have some classics like Bitbucket and JSM as well. And then for you Trello folks, there's Trello as well. But the one that we're particularly interested in is these bottom 3 down here. We have Search, Chat, and Studio. Very similar to what we just foreshadowed, right? And so this is how we're going to get to Studio. So you're going to be able to click here and go into Studio. Now, I want to set the stage a little bit while my Studio is loading, right? The whole purpose of the agents, right? The whole reason why we're doing this is to help you not only build your first agent, but we want to build agents that help us, right? These agents, in case you haven't heard what an agent is, it's basically AI, right? It's driven and powered by AI, but the agents are very specific, okay? They are configurable AI teammates. And I want you to double down on this term because you're going to hear this. This is the messaging from Atlassian. Now, keep in mind, I don't work for Atlassian. We're just champions. We like the company, but our opinions are our own. But I like the angle that Atlassian's taking here with the word teammate, because a lot of people, when they hear of AI, there's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of, oh my gosh, my job's going to be in danger because AI agents are going to start taking over my job. But Atlassian's very careful and very interesting with their language here, where they're not really positioning agents to be someone that's a threat, but rather a teammate. And you can think of Atlassian's messaging here as you're able to basically build an army, right? If you remember that famous scene from Avengers, the first Avengers, right? Where, the Hulk and, Loki and Iron Man are fighting about, we have an army, right? And they're like, well, we have a Hulk, right? That's kind of the idea that you can basically build an army of AI agents that help you be the better version of yourself at work, right? And so a lot of the nuanced things, a lot of those annoying things that are very repetitive, right? Those tasks that you're consistently doing over and over, and you just, they're like, what is it, nails on a chalkboard, right? That nobody wants to do. Well, you can now make an agent that does that work for you. And we're going to do a couple of agents that are going to help us do things that normally as a project manager we do, right? So I just want to reiterate, we're going to focus on these 3 things here, right? We're going to be building agents to help us triage our bugs and understand the work in front of us a little bit better. Because yes, we can do this manually, and yes, we can go through every bug and go and make sure everything has acceptance criteria, and we can always, make sure that we manually do things, but that is time that is now taken from you to do that manual work. And so what we're going to show you today is how you can leverage the power of Rovo to help automate those things, right? To help let the agent do the work while you go do something more value added, right? And so with that said, that's kind of setting the stage for what we're going to try to achieve here today, right? We're going to put Jira and Rovo together, specifically the agents, and we're going to build that agent inside of Studio. So again, if you have any questions, do please let me know. Liz says that AI equals 409 general purpose cleaner. Agents are Windex, specific to glass, Pledge, specific to wood, and Pine-Sol, specific to tile. AI is general, agents target specifics. Yes. So that's a great description here, Liz, where this is not like ChatGPT where you can ask it anything in the world, right? Agents have a job. You are going to tell them, and I'm not going to show you in the demonstration because you're going to see here over the next 45 minutes that Lena and I are going to stumble a little bit because the agents need very, very, very explicit instructions, because any like vagueness to this, to how we build the agent, and the agent goes off in very weird and unconventional ways. And so, as explicit as you can possibly be, your job is to count to 10. And that's the only thing the agent can do. And the agent will do that really, really well. It will count to 10, right? But if you just say count, then expect anything to happen. When it comes to counting, at least, right? And so we want to be as explicit as possible with our agents so that we can be very, very, very get a good agent out of this. Gina's got a question of, is Jira Studio included in the Jira Premium plan? It should be, Gina. As I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Atlassian is slowly but surely rolling out Rovo Chat, Rovo Search, and Studio to premium and enterprise customers. Now, I have a premium version of Jira, and I have it. So hopefully when you go to the grid inside of your Jira, you're able to see Studio down at the bottom. If you don't see it, your company might not have enabled Rovo. So that's actually a good little sidebar. So why don't we pause here for a second? Because in order for this stuff to work, Rovo and AI does need to be enabled. So you may need to talk to your Jira admin or your org admin to go to user management, admin.atlassian.com. And under settings, there is a Rovo section, right? You want to make sure that you have Rovo activated, because if you don't have Rovo activated, then your company might not be allowing for Rovo to happen, right? So if you're looking at this and you're trying to figure out why your stuff's not working, just make sure that you have Rovo actually enabled. But great question, Gina. All right. So let's go to
side question based on that. Is that the same way for those that don't need it to turn it off?
Exactly. Yeah. So if a company is not necessarily comfortable with how data is shared or how Atlassian's handling the data residency part, then yeah, you can turn that stuff off while you're doing your evaluation. Now, Atlassian does have proper documentation, and I mean, they're betting everything on Rovo. So Atlassian is going above and beyond, and they're moving mountains to make sure that every company is comfortable with Rovo. And so whatever, I'll put excuses in air quotes, but whatever reasons folks are not comfortable enabling Rovo, Atlassian, I can guarantee you, is aggressively trying to figure out how to overcome those challenges to make sure everybody gets into Rovo. And they started with the price, right? Last year, Rovo used to cost like $20 or something like that per user per month, and now it's included with your paid versions of Jira. Okay, so when we come into Studio, we are actually not only able to build agents, which is what we're going to focus on, but we can also build automation, hubs, and assets. Now, in the chat here on the side, let me know if you're interested in any of these. We signed up to do agents, but if you are interested in seeing how you can use Studio for building automations or hubs or assets, let us know so that we can make some of those videos for you as well. And then in the not so distant future, and we've already seen a little bit with the Forge CLI, there's also going to be an ability to develop in Studio with Forge. And so there's going to be way, way, way more technical content coming at you very, very soon. But just let us know in the chat if this is something that's interesting to you so that we can, plan and prepare some content for you all. But for now, let's just focus on agents here. And this is what it looks like when you come to build an agent. You have two paths. You can build a Rovo agent, which is what we're going to focus on. Or if you're on the JSM side, Jira Service Management, you can create a service agent. Now, for this particular course, we're going to focus on the left, and we're going to take a look at Rovo agents. Okay. Now, Rovo agent works with you to tackle specialized tasks. And I wish Atlassian would highlight this and bold it and underline it, because it is not an understatement and it's not an overstatement when I tell you Rovo agents need to be very specialized. Like, you'll see the prompts. We're going to experiment. We're going to show you best case, and then we're going to go off script and just kind of have some fun with some agents just to give you some demonstrations. But we've been at this for a week, and we've learned a lot, which is why I have my lovely wife here to help me with the lessons. Okay, but before we create our own, I want to show you what's available, because there's a lot of agents already available. In fact, Atlassian, as I mentioned, Mike Cannon-Brooks earlier in the day, he was doing a presentation about how Atlassian is just building these, like, I suspect that they have like an army of software engineers and just teammates at Atlassian, just churning out agent after agent after agent. And so when you come into this browse agents, you're going to see that we have a work organizer made by Atlassian. We have a products requirement guide made by Atlassian, right? And as you scroll down the list, there's a few dozen different agents that are already in existence, and we can plug in and use any of these. And in fact, we're going to open one of these up and we're just going to take a look at what these do and how they're configured. So I'm just going to, at random, this is not anything special. I'm just going to very randomly open up this issue organizer one. And I kind of want to walk you through what is an agent, all right? What's the makeup, right? What's the structure? Because in a few moments, we're going to have to provide all this information as well, right? And so it's good for me to kind of give you a good context as to what is an agent made up of. And so the first thing that we have here is the title of the agent. And if you've ever built an automation rule before, you might appreciate this, right? But essentially, you want to name your agents after the function, the task, right? The thing that they're going to do, the thing that they're going to be very good at doing. Because if you just name it like agent one, agent two, your team's not going to get very far. Because this name is something you're going to interact with a lot. And so this name should be, action driven and very clear to the end user, whoever's going to interact with these agents, of what it's supposed to do, right? Then over here, we have the powered by or made by, and then who made it, right? And this is going to be important as well because you're going to want to distinctly see which ones belong to Atlassian versus, as you can see here, I got a bunch of agents that are made by Lena. And so there's going to be, I'm not sure how it's going to work out yet, right? But I would assume that at the very minimum, your administrators are going to be able to create agents. But I would suspect that Atlassian might go with the same model with whoever can create automation rules should, in theory, be able to create agents. So I wouldn't be surprised if multiple people in your company are going to have the ability to create agents. And so this who made it is going to give you some insight into which user made a particular agent.
So right now, to clarify, Alex, it was told to us that agents right now can be created by anyone who has access to them. But Atlassian is working on allowing admins to limit who can create them. So that is not out yet, but it eventually will come out.
Yeah. Now, I do want to address this comment here from Liz, right? Because, I believe that being able to use them should be open to everybody, but I'm very specific on who can create them. Now, I would believe then that, everybody can create them now, but over time, I would suspect, like you said, right, Atlassian is going to put some guardrails in place because you're not going to, especially since you're going to, Rovo is going to have a usage limit, and you don't want just a million agents running around because you'll hit your limits real quickly. But right now, as Atlassian is gaining popularity and trying to roll these out, I would suspect that they're open to everybody. But from a usability perspective, yeah, it should be like an automation rule where anybody that has access to your Jira should be able to interact with them and use them. Rodney wants me to make an agent named Carl. Make it eat its hands. And bonus points if you get the reference. I don't, because when I think of Carl, I just think of Carl from Mr. Beast. But I think that's too modern for Rodney. Okay. Below who made the agent, we have a descriptor of what the agent's supposed to do. Trust me when I tell you, you're going to want to be as explicit as possible here because any deviation from here is going to throw things off in various directions. Okay. Your users are going to be able to star the agents, right? So you'll be able to see how many people are not actively using it, but rather have said, yep, I like this one and have started for themselves. Now, with that said, we're going to kind of skip the left-hand side. We don't really care too much about the left. We're going to move over to the right and talk about this open chat. And so if anybody of you have ever built an Alexa skill, right, or if you've ever used an Alexa before, you know that when you create a skill for your AI assistant there, you typically tell her to do something, right? You go, hey, so-and-so, do this using like Spotify. And that is a trigger, right? That tells your either Siri or Cortana or Alexa to go do something and trigger the app, right? And so we have something very, very similar here where this open chat is going to be the triggers, if you will, on how we're going to invoke and interact with the agent. And so your responsibility when we're building our agents is to populate this, right? You're going to have to come up with this text that guides the user to figure out how do I expect a user to interact with this agent. And these are usually going to be in the form of like either like some sort of an action or a question or a statement that then the users can visually see and go, okay, that's what I'm trying to do, that's what I'm trying to achieve, let's click on that one, and that'll invoke the agent. Now below that, right, once you get one of these three triggers, I do believe you're limited to three triggers right now, right, Lena? Yeah. So once you get beyond or past these triggers, your instructions are going to execute. Now, friends, this is where agents is different than anything else I've ever seen before, because you're going to notice that the code, and I'm going to put code in air quotes, is in English. And I think that's the beauty of the Rovo agents, right? This is the beauty of Studio as well, is that unlike traditional, even I'll go as far as automation rules, right? Where you need to know logic, right? You need to have in your mind, especially when you're building automation rules in Jira, you need to have some sort of like logic of, okay, I want this to happen. And if this, then that, right? There's a lot of if and else's and then an ors, right? There's just a bunch of conditional logics that are happening, but you're dragging, if you've ever built an automation rule before, you're dragging a lot of options onto the screen and you're basically coding, but you're coding in a way that's friendly, but it's still code at the end of the day. But Studio kind of turns that a little bit more and takes it even further in that you're not coding anything. This doesn't feel like I'm writing any programming language. And this doesn't even feel like I'm putting any kind of programming logic either. But rather, I'm just talking to it. I'm just in plain English telling it, I'm prompting it, really is what I'm doing. And I'm telling it explicitly what I expect you to do. And I want you to read through this. We're going to read through this prompt here because when we build our agent in a few minutes, this is where you're going to make or break. This is where you're either going to be really, really happy or you're going to be super frustrated that the agent doesn't behave the way you want it to, because the magic sauce is here. It's in these instructions and how well you prompt the instruction. And so if you've never taken a prompt engineering course, I highly, highly, highly recommend you learn how to prompt. It's going to benefit you when you're interacting with Jupyter. And now when you're building your agents, it's going to make your life easier. But let's take a look at this example here. So your instructions are, you are issue organizer, an AI assistant built by Atlassian. You can do everything. And of course, there's a in the list of functions available. Treat the human in a friendly and personalized way. If what they ask is completely nonsensical, ask for clarification. And I want you to understand this part because it's easy to read past it. But this portion here is very, very special because what it's doing is it adds character to the agent. And this is something that I think is interesting that Atlassian's doing here, right? Is that they're giving you the ability to basically add some personality to a certain degree to the agent. And Jippity, Rodney, is ChatGPT, right? That's how the cool kids call it. Right? Now, as we continue going down this path, we have the instructions, right? Like, so following are the details of the human user. We have name, and then these are variables. Now, Lena and I are still trying to figure out where these variables are coming from because these are not smart values that we're used to in the automation rules. But were you able to find out anything, Lena, on where these variables came from? Not yet.
Not on this one. Maybe it's an input that you have to give it. It probably prompts you for it.
No, but just these are variables. I don't know if I think we may have to talk with someone from Atlassian to get a little bit more clarification. But
Yeah,
you can build,
maybe you should get into an easier
yeah.
into creating the actual one so that people can see how easy it is to create one, right?
No,
Because I
absolutely.
feel
But
like
I'm just saying we're gonna get more information on it. But just keep in mind that you can use variables, and also keep in mind that these do not, at least the way I look at them, they are not smart values. So I'm curious to see where Atlassian's pulling these and if there's like a library of variables that you can use. So we'll come back to this one, and we are gonna do a session in October, right before Halloween. And so make sure you sign up for that because again, every day this stuff changes. And so in 3 months, we're going to be in a completely different ballgame. Now, if we skip all this variable stuff, because this is just getting details from the user anyways, the meat, the potatoes here is following those rules, right? So this particular agent is going to always use a function to find information, even if you know the answer. Prioritize the search QA plugin when the function to use is not obvious. Never answer the user directly without results from a function unless they ask to reformat an existing answer or refine some provided text. Do not use your pre-trained knowledge to answer. And if the answer is not available from the current function, always call another function. I have no idea what this does, but this is an issue organizer. And that is how you build an agent. So let's close this out. And we're going to go and actually build our own and spend the last 30 minutes inside of Jira, inside of Studio building an agent. So in case you missed it, right? In case I went too fast for y'all, all I did was create an agent, right? And there's two different ways to build an agent. We're going to be using this interactive mode, or if you decide that this is kind of not your way of doing it, you can skip to the manual setup, which basically you put in everything manually. Now I want to demonstrate this mode because this is interesting. It's a very interesting path that Atlassian has taken here because I'm not building this in a silo. I literally have a teammate and it feels like I'm interacting with a robot. You're going to see what this looks like. So let's read the prompt here. And it says, "Hi, I'm here to help you build a custom agent. Tell me what you'd like your agent to do." Right? And so at this point, we're going to ask our agent to, oh boy, anybody in the chat want to offer up a suggestion? What should we make our agent do? I think it'd be more fun if in the chat, if you guys give us some opinions, or what would you like to see the agent do? And Lena, if you got any ideas, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna default to my very boring things that I do.
Well, we're gonna think about something simple, right? Because agents can only do simple one.
I wouldn't say simple, but it's got to be very specific.
Yeah, specific. I guess yes, that's
Very,
the
very
word.
specific. So things like automatically archive old issues. That's a good one here. So we can do this, right? Let's try this out.
Well, have it find. So the simple thing that you can have it do is find
The
old
oldest.
issues.
Yeah, let's do that. So we're gonna to Harson, we're gonna pause on the archive, but let's just find all the old issues, right?
Yeah, because
And
I
so
feel like the agent would take that as they would take it as two different things.
yes. Okay, so let's do that one. We're gonna go. I want to easily find all the issues, and I'm interested to see if Atlassian has coded issues versus work items. I'm gonna go with work items that are older than, I don't know, let's just say 300 days. Right? We're gonna find old work. And so when I hit enter, watch what happens next, right? Because we're just prompting and we're telling it, okay, this is what we want to do. And so what it does, because we're not using the manual mode, but rather we're using this, smart way of doing it. It basically took the prompt that I told it, right? This is what I wanted to do. And it's going to give me a title, give me a description, and then the instructions, right? You are an assistant that helps users find work items that are older than 300 days. You can provide users with methods to filter and search for these work items in various project management tools. You should be clear and concise in your response, guiding users through the process step by step. And then the conversation starters, right? Remember, these are going to be the prompts that the users are going to interact with, right? They're going to say, can you help me find work items older than 300 days? What methods can I use to filter old work items and guide me through searching for work items? Now,
Alex, can you zoom in, please?
yes. Can you zoom in on that page? I'm zooming in on the wrong page. Okay, how's that, Sharon? Okay, so Liz says specify old in time duration first, like Alex is doing, but you will need to follow up with additional agents for more nuanced or detailed archiving. Yeah, we'll kind of see how we put it all together. But again, we're doing something simple. I wanna do a demo that actually works because you can spend hours fine tuning this stuff. But we just want something simple, right? So as you can see, though, the instructions, the description is made for us, right? Not the name. This is a profile. We're going to give it a name right now. But these two things, if you would have gone with manual mode, you would have to basically type them up yourself. And so AI uses AI to build AI. It's kind of creepy.
So, Alex, if you look at the last sentence or the last question, it's actually suggesting a name for you, and you get to decide whether you like that name or change it.
Okay. So I don't like it. Don't like the name. I want to make sure it's clear that we are searching for old work items, not just any work item. Let's see what it tells me there. Great. How about old work item tracker? Genius. Perfect. Let's go with that. Great. I will update the agent profile with the confirmed named old work item tracker. Now let's refine the instructions for your agent. To start, what specific goals and knowledge do you want the agent to be aware of or focus on when helping users find work items? Okay. So I want to make sure that the old work items are not currently resolved, because maybe I don't care for items that are old, right? I just want items that haven't been worked on yet, right? They've just been lingering in the backlog for 300 days, 300 plus days. And so at this point, I don't think anybody's going to work on them. But if the item has been completed and it's over 300 days, I don't really care. So I don't want to see that. So that's going to be a refinement that I'm going to make, where I don't want to see items that are currently not, I only want to see items that are currently not resolved. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, so I'm going to hit enter for that. That way, instead of bringing back a lot of items, it's not going to bring me only open items. So it says, I'll update the instructions to include the agent should focus on finding all work items that are not currently resolved. Now, are there any specific jobs or tasks that you want the agent to be capable of performing, or any requirements for the agent to perform during a specific job? Yes, the search should be limited to only the project. Oops. I wonder if it treats capitalization as yelling. Because when you do all caps, you're yelling at it. So the search should be limited only to the project that I'm in when I invoke the agent. Sharon's laughing at my thing. Okay, so it's going to be updated. So do you want anything else? Nope. We are good. So I'm done, and I might have to hit the review agent button, but let's see what it tells me when I told it that we're done. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, it's taken an awfully long time to think. So while it's thinking, over here on the right-hand side, if in case you all missed it, by dynamically, as I was, interacting with the chat here, it was essentially updating things for me. So the name got updated, the description that I gave it got updated, the conversation starters that it gave me got updated, and then the instructions that I've been telling it are here. So you are an assistant, right, that are not resolved. You can provide users. This is still the old stuff, but I'm not seeing any of the new stuff. So it's taking too long to complete. And so I'm just going to simply click on this review agent here, and we're going to go on to reviewing our agent. So here you have the ability to edit. So if you ever change your mind, and in fact, if you have any existing agents and you want to edit them later, even once they're active, you can always come back to this page and edit your agent here. And so we're good here, where I think we're fine. You can edit the conversation starters. If you're not happy with what it gave you, you can modify those. If you're not happy with these instructions, you can come over here and change things as well, right? So assuming you're happy, right, we're just gonna trust that it's gonna do it well. We're gonna hit activate, and our agent is activated. And so now we are ready to test it. So I'm going to click on the test button here, and something very interesting happened. Notice that I'm in the chat. I am inside of Rovo chat. And so one of the ways that we're going to be invocating these agents is through Rovo chat, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can basically call the agent now that it's been created. Okay, because Studio helped us build it, but once we're inside of Jira, we're going to actually use chat or one of the other couple different ways I'm going to show you to actually interact with your agent. So right here, we are basically, again, Robo Chat, and I'm simply going to tell it, can you help me find work items that are older than 300 days? So it's going to go and do its thing, and it's going to go and analyze, and it's going to go and find things. And so at this point, it has gone out into the world, and it has found items, and it's just going to give me 722 items that are old. And so at this point, you may be asking yourself, Alex, what's the point of the agent? Because Lena, when she was building these agents, that was her question. She's like, what was the point of this? I could have done this search, right? I could have done the search easily. The takeaway that I want you to get from this, right, is that these agents are reliable and they consistently do the same thing over and over and over. So instead of having to do a filter, instead of having to do some JQL, right, and then filters that you got to share with people, and JQL that you got to recreate over and over and over, you simply create these agents that then anybody in your company who wants to use this can just simply invoke the agent and get that information, right? And it's going to be unique, right? Because they're going to be able to interact with it and so on. But it's just an easy way to, you got to think of it. I like to think of the agent as basically an automation rule on steroids, but an automation rule that can, you know, be built using natural language as opposed to, again, automation rules require some coding, right? And so they're easy to create and they're very specific and specialized in what they do. And so that's kind of the takeaway that I like to give you here. Now, if there's any questions on the agents, please let me know. Otherwise, Lena and I are going to transition to a real world example. So I'm back in Jira and we are going to essentially use existing agents that we've created during the week. And I'm going to show you what this application will look like in the real world. Now, full disclosure, full disclosure, this is not scripted. And so things may go sideways on us. So bear with us as this is a live demonstration. And we are going to try our best here to show you these agents and how they actually work, right? Because I've already showed you how to build the agent, but now I'm going to deliver on the promise of showing you how to use the agents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a project that we have in here, and Lena, feel free to speak up whenever you want. You got
How
something?
about we start with the showing them the case? How would we go about using an agent, right? Let's start with the backlog,
Yep.
right?
So we're in our Bug Invaders project. So full disclosure, we are in parallel building a Forge game called Bug Invaders, and so stay tuned for that as we're going to have more details in the following weeks and months. But we decided to eat our own dog food, right? We wanted to use Jira and the Atlassian tools to help us build an app, and we're basically knocking out two birds with one stone. So I have a backlog. These are some of our stories and some of the bugs that we've encountered with essentially creating this app that we want to build and bring to the Forge community. So go ahead, Lena. Walk me through
Okay.
this.
So from here, why don't we show them how to find bugs that are agent based on keywords that we fed our agent. Things are
Urgent,
critical. That should be
critical, and
critical,
urgent.
but are not critical.
Okay. So in other words, we have a few bugs here. No, we have bugs that are critical already, right? And so walk me through, how are we going to do this? Do I go to
So
Rovo
go
Chat,
ahead to
right?
go to the chat. So this is another way to access the creating of agents if you can figure out how to find the studio. And just kind of a side thing, right? Up there where it says my agents,
Okay.
next to it there's a create, so they'll take you to creating as well. But
That'll redirect you to Studio. Yep, it redirects you to Studio, and then you can create. Okay, perfect.
yeah, so that's kind
All
of
right.
like a little side note. But here, let's go ahead and go to all agents and find the agent that is, type in their bug. If you can type it on the search bug and go with the bug priority assistant. Yes.
So again, folks, this is an agent that has already been created. It already has its instructions, and it has its conversation starters. So all you need to do, because it already exists, is simply pick one of these three items. So I'm going to pick what critical bug should I prioritize today. I'm looking for a head nod, Lena.
Yes. Yeah, so basically, let's say you're trying to figure out how to plan your sprint and you're trying to figure out what bugs and should I be focusing on for this sprint, right? So it's gonna display to you in a table because you can tell the robo agent to give it to you in a table. If you can extend it, Alex, so that they can see better.
Yeah, I
It,
went as far as I could go here.
yeah, so it pushes like halfway sort of or something like that. But you can tell it to tell you which bugs based on, for example, this agent has keywords as such as urgent, production, break fix, and you can make it so that it knows to look for all the for those words whether they're capitalized or not, so it's not case sensitive, and it'll give you a list of the bugs that need attention. And from there, you can make a decision of which ones are you going to fix.
Yeah, and you can even get more specific with the chat, like who's assigned a specific item, right?
Mm-hmm.
When's the expected fix date for a specific bug? And so again, you're using more natural language to arrive at a conclusion. Now, Rama here is asking, can we show how to use the agent we just created, right? Well, let me hit refresh on my screen real quick so that that agent comes into my cache here. So we'll do the same thing with Robo Chat. The only difference now is instead of running that agent that we ran for Lena, I can click on my agents, and my agent that I created is here. So you can just click on it from here, invoke it using one of those questions, and then it's going to go and find me those items. Now, this last time, it ran through Plat, and I would expect for it to run here instead.
And
And
then
this
this
is
one makes
interesting,
sense because all of our issues are less than 300 days
right?
old
So this is
for
perfect, right?
work
This is
items.
exactly what we want to see. Yeah. But however, if I move over to another project, right, and I come back, oopsie, I did not want to do that. If I come back to another project and let me see if how do I
You
revoke
get to
it?
go back to agents, go to my agents, yeah, and then try it
Yeah.
there again.
So I'm in a project that should have items that are older than 300 days, and I should not see any plat. I'm expecting that if this worked correctly based on the instructions I told it, it should only bring me back mobile items and not the other project that it looked at. So let's see if it's doing that. Okay, so far so good. It's bringing me just mobile, and it just found 31s in mobile. So remember, when I prompted it, I told it specifically, I only want you to find things that are in that specific project. And so it's doing the thing that I told it to do. And
Mm-hmm.
let's test it, right? Let's do a little spot check, and let's open this up, right? This item is in to do. It was created in 2021. Now, somebody in the chat had said updated, right? Somebody had said maybe not
Mm-hmm.
updated. So that's another fine tuning that you can do with your agent.
Yeah,
Maybe you don't want to see
you can add
things.
the keyword in there to check for updated instead of created
Yeah.
thing you asked for, right?
And I'll tell you one other thing too that I like about this, because I've been doing Jira since 2016. And when you do this less than greater than, right? -30 plus 30, right? I have never in my life, in all the hundreds of thousands of JQLs I've created, have I ever understood, should it be less than, should it be greater than, should it be a negative, or should it not have a negative? I can never, I could not. I can, I would not be able to give you a query in JQL that tells you the last time that something was updated within the last week. Like, it's just not a JQL that I can comprehend in my math, in my brain. But I can tell an instruction, I want to see all the work items that were updated within the last 3 days. And it's going to build that agent, and it's going to know how to do that perfectly for me, because it will know how to build a JQL that I just cannot for the life of me build. And so that's another benefit to the agents versus, doing the JQL. Because at the end of the day, the agents are just running queries for you, but it's the interaction that you write things in English and then you tell it, right? You're telling it to do very specific things. In fact, why don't we go back, Lena, and show them some of the agents that you created so we can show them how this other agent came to be. So this bug priority one here, I want to go into it, and I'm in
You have to
Studio.
click on the
Here, yeah,
yes.
right. So you can see here that we gave it an objective. Oops, let me zoom in a little bit more. right? We gave it an objective, and then we tell it only include this, and we give it a format, present the matching results in a table, right? And we tell the bug ID, like we tell what the table should be. And so you can be very specific in your organization that there's just things that you just can't do in JQL anyways. And so this is what's pretty cool. And you can like be very specific. These are the words that I want to be looking for so that it knows what critical means, right? And so it's finding items that are very specific to that. The Godfather says, "How would you know that the AI's JQL is correct if you don't know what the query should be?" That's a great question, which is why I always do a trust but verify, and why I also said that Robo's changing so much, right? Right now, I would suspect that there's a higher probability that the JQL is not correct and that it's not going to bring you back the right data all the time. That's just from my experience. But I would suspect that over time, that the JQL gets better and better and better, right? Especially as Atlassian continues to refine this. But right now, I'm in a trust but verify mode where I would not be presenting this to my CIO or my CEO or my CTO without me double checking the work here. So keep that in mind that right now I would not be putting my career on the line for Robo, but maybe give it another year or two. Unless I don't think that Mike's like on Elon standard time where if Mike says next year, it actually means like 20 years from now. But I would suspect very closely. Atlassian is again refining this thing daily. And
Yeah,
so
they're
I was,
working on it daily.
yeah. Sharon's asking, can you use your agent to create reporting? I haven't tried it. I don't know that it's there yet. It's more of an
No, I don't think it's there
interaction.
yet because reporting will take multiple inputs, and I feel like it's not at that
Yeah.
level yet.
So let's go back to our demo here, and I want to show you two more things because we are running out of time, and I just want to kind of give you a good appreciation for how this thing is. So you saw how we interacted with Rovo through chat. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is if you open up a particular item, and in fact, let me go back to the right project, right? So if I open up a particular item, and let's just say it's this story here, or not. I think I want a story with some descriptions, no, Lena?
No, you can do the one with the description. There's an agent for
I'll take this
description
one here.
too.
This one's
Okay.
fine for me, right? So I'm gonna open. So disclosure that Lena wanted to make sure y'all heard was if you try to run Rovo from within this view, from within the backlog view, it's a little buggy. So don't. The
Yes.
best practice right now is open the work item completely and then invoke Rovo. Because if you try to do what I'm about to do and you're still in the backlog view, you're gonna get less than an ideal experience. So once you are inside of your work item, I'm gonna go to my acceptance criteria, and this Atlassian Intelligence button, it used to be Atlassian Intelligence, it's going to become a little bit smarter because now underneath what is normally Atlassian Intelligence, we have our agents. And so here I'm going to go look for an agent that I have for acceptance criteria assistant. So I'm going to click on that. Then you click on your invoking statement, and then it's going to go and build something for me. Right. And so this particular item is going to go for this particular work item, right? And it's been instructed to read the summary and read the description, right? And it's going to go and basically give me acceptance criteria. And this is again one of those things where you want to trust but verify because these are great starting points, right? These are going to be great items that allow you to have a starting point so you can now negotiate with your engineers. So if you're a product manager and your job is to come up with acceptance criteria, then you can easily go through a lot of work items, get at least a working draft, and then you can then negotiate and go from there. But this right here gives us a really good starting point so that we have a solid understanding of what does done mean for this particular story. Anything you want to add there, Lena?
Yes, and I feel like the purpose of these robo agents, right? Especially for the acceptance criteria, is that you can set them up in a way where the way that your team works. So in the things that it outputs back will be in a way that the team works. So therefore, you will get things in a way that works for everybody. So if we have a common template for everything that gets outputted.
Yep. Now, in the interest of time, because we only have 5 minutes, I want to show you probably one of my more favorite ways to use robo agents, and that is going to be through the use of automation rules. And so if I go to my project settings and I go to my automation here, And I may need to go to global, right? Because you put it as a global. Yeah.
I put in the global.
So I'm gonna go to my global automation just because it's in a different spot. But I have the
We
auto.
have the auto for when you create a bug, it automatically calls an agent and determines whether the title or the description have any of the keywords that will make that bug a critical bug and set that bug automatically to critical.
Yep. So this is, I think, like this is my favorite part, right? Because now you can create agents, right? And so earlier we had, I forgot who was it, right? Somebody had asked us, can we archive it, right? Well, you can have an agent that finds all the items that are old, and then you can stick into an automation rule that then is going to do the archiving function. Because
Mm-hmm.
inside of inside of automation rules here, we do have the ability to archive. Maybe where is it at? Thought we did. Maybe not. I thought we would have. Atlassian, you should add an ability to archive work items from here. But anyways, once we're here, we have the ability to maybe transition them to something like maybe we can transition them to done or do something a little bit that whatever you can do within the Atlassian world here, right? But at least let's take all those work items and maybe cancel them, right? Maybe move them to a canceled status, or maybe you can edit them and edit them to go to a resolution of won't do or something like that. And so this allows you to take values from an agent response, right? So whatever comes back from your agent, you can then do something, right? And in that earlier case, we can then move them to a resolution of won't do or something like that, and transition into done or canceled, right? But I like this. So this is kind of cool where you are going to be able to, or you're not going to, but you can essentially invoke your agents from here, do some logic, right? Because you can do a if, like you can log it, right? And then you can do some comparisons, right? So you can do the traditional things that you would normally do with your automation rules, and then you can basically change priorities and stuff like that. So really, really interesting. Again, in the interest of time, I'm just gonna create a new bug real quick in that project. It always defaults to medium, and then I'm gonna show you that it'll go over to critical, right? And so essentially, I create a bug here and say this is an urgent bug that needs to be fixed now, right? And my priority is medium, and so I'm going to hit create, and that automation rule is going to run. It's going to run under the hood, right? It's running right now. I'm going to do a quick refresh. Oh, it's actually already done, and it already updated it to critical. And when we go to the history, we're going to see that the automation for Jira updated the history because we had an agent that is checking for these keywords in the title, and then the automation will then transition it or move it into that priority of critical. So folks, that's pretty much it
Well,
of what we
and
had.
then you can also use them for like the current bugs, right? If you go back to the backlog, that agent can also be used as a manual trigger for bugs that you might have in there.
Down
And
here.
yeah, and then use that as a way to fix the current bugs you have in there.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that's all we have for today. If you enjoyed this class, I'm going to drop a link to my other classes that I have. This is normally the most. This is really the most advanced one that we've ever done here. But in the month of August and throughout the rest of the year, I have a whole bunch. On October 30th in the morning, we will be running a very similar workshop to this one, but expect to just be updated with the latest and greatest. This workshop is going to be done after Team 25 Europe, which means we may have new features and new things that you can do with Rovo and with Studio. Since Atlassian, I'm expecting they're going to make some major announcements then and there. And so come back at the end of October so that you can see all the latest improvements to Rovo there. And so I'm going to drop a link there to the community led. And then if you enjoyed this content and you want to connect with me and or Lena, here's our link tree here so you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Definitely you'll find me because this is the first time I have Lena on here, so we might have to add her to her link tree. But connect with me, and a couple of announcements. If you are local to the Southern California area, or if you want to make it to SoCal, August 22nd, we're going to be hosting an AI summer camp in LA, right by LAX. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out on LinkedIn. I'm going to be making announcements very soon. And then the second big announcement is October 22nd through the 24th. We're doing a hands-on Forge, hands-on Jira administration, and hands-on Agile-based project management in the tools. It's a 3-day conference. It's totally free. Both events are totally free. Just need to take care of your airfares and lodging. And I look forward to seeing you. So if you want to make it out to Southern California, the second event in October is going to be in Long Beach, California, October 22nd through the 24th. Totally free. Just got to get your booking taken care of, and come and learn some cool stuff. So Liz might be one of our speakers as well. So if you want to come meet some of the people here in the Atlassian community, definitely check out the event. So more information coming soon on LinkedIn, so keep an eye out for that. But these both will be community-led conferences, so officially sponsored by Atlassian and completely free. There's no charge for admission. Just got to take care of your travel. So hope to see you in person. Thank you all for being here. Let me know if you liked it. This is the first time, again, that we've done something at this caliber with some such new technology. So in the chat, if you enjoyed this lesson, please let us know. Give us some feedback here. Again, hopefully the pace was okay. We didn't want to overwhelm you, but we also didn't want to have a bad demo where Rovo wasn't behaving. So we were kind of playing it close to heart, but hopefully you got some value out of what Agents and Studio works, how it works. So again, thank you all very much, and we'll see you in a future episode. Bye.
Bye.